I think it takes all a spring, to really put him in those positions where he's going to be challenged cover-wise, and in some matchups, and he did well. So I think he's a real versatile player, and he showed me a lot since he's been here, but he's ready to play.
So he's going to rep that adjuster and bandit. Is that correct, Coach?
Yeah, I think he will. I think he will, because we'll need it. And he's repped at all three. We like him in that nickel position, but of course when he's in there, it's almost like a strong safety. You know what I mean? So you adapt what he does best, to the defense and what I call when he's in there, if he's in at a nickel. But we tried to put him in some challenging positions too, just to see how he would hold up with a lot of the things that a nickel has to do. And he did well. So I think really the sky's the limit with Sonny. And we'll keep working. I'll keep working over the summer to really define, the things that he does best.
How are Tommy and Steele health-wise, obviously?
Yeah, they're both 100% now.
How do you feel like CJ and Gabe, kind of those two second-year guys in that class, performed?
Yeah, they made a lot of progress. Gabe had a good spring game, and I thought really came on at the end. CJ is a guy who, I'm predicting sometime this season we're going to see him really unleash. And the good thing is he's not pressed into service because of the veterans in front of him, and I think that's helped him to be able to play more relaxed. But at some point this year, we'll be able to see CJ's athletic ability. I mean, I think he's just, on the cusp of breaking out.
I asked Coach Mick which young guys were standing out earlier, and CJ was one he mentioned as someone whose maturity has really improved from last year to this one. How have you seen that grow for him?
Well, you see it in everything. I mean, you just see it in how he learns, how he's able to articulate the defense and his assignment, how he does across the board in the classroom and just being on time, being not just being present at the workouts, but being a leader. So he's had a really good off season.
Jim, when you say that there will be a moment when CJ might be unleashed, how will that logistically happen when he has an older guy ahead of him? Does that mean you're going to find opportunities in games where you're going to put CJ in? Would that be in the second half?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is up to me. It's a great question, because it's up to me to find some time, some things that he can do, in the jack type of game, and also in those situations where we have the opportunity for him to play, whether that's through a rotation, me just saying, hey, I'm going to get him in every so often, because to move along a guy's progression, he's got to get plays. So it's either me defining a role for him within the game plan, creating a substitution where I know I'm going to put him in no matter what or what the score is, or those situations like you said where it's a second half situation and he can really play a lot.
What's that process like for any coach? And this seems like a great example of it. Like you said, CJ's not pressed into service. You don't have to play him because you have veterans ahead of him. But yet maybe you want to see something. How difficult is it to strike that balance? What kind of process do you go through?
Yeah, you go. I mean, it's really from now, right? I'm back off the road from now until the season starts. Constantly tinkering and looking at things, and how much could he handle that's outside of you know, a normal will linebacker position. And then it's, in my thought process, thinking about a season long, and then, you know, forcing myself to actually write down on paper, okay, in the first half of the season, I want to make sure he gets X amount of plays, you know, because that'll move him.
When a guy gets that opportunity and he pops, what's the next step for a coach? Meaning, if it becomes obvious this guy is a playmaker, you know what I mean? What is that next step?
More plays, you know, more plays. I think that always, it reflects, you know, we have to have confidence in our game based on practice, right? Because we don't have many games. It's not like another sport where you can have exhibition games. So you have to have confidence based on practice. So if a guy shows you things in practice, then you give him an opportunity in the game. And if he shows you things in the game, you give him more opportunities.
Yeah.
That's it. It's that easy.
Yeah, and more plays has a trickle-down effect because somebody else is getting fewer.
Somebody else is getting fewer. But it's like I was saying earlier, that's not a bad thing, even with our veterans, because we want to play a long season. And you saw what happened to, like, Tommy No Thumbs, you know what I mean? It's like as you get down the end, I mean, you know, so the more that CJ can play, the more it helps us over the long haul of the season.
You mentioned CJ at the Jack. I know you want Mitch there as well. Do you feel ready now going into the summer to reintroduce the Jack? Because I know you kind of held that off in the spring.
Yeah, I do. And maybe not even with the whole defense, but I'll be spending time with those two guys in particular, you know, just one-on-one time, you know, talking about the things that I want, what I want to accomplish.
CJ and Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
And how much can we be done with that before you get back to actual practice? How much of that is in the film room? X's and O's?
A lot, tons, right? Because that's a position when fully developed where that guy knows everything about the defense and everything about the call. So a lot of that is one-on-one time with me and that player or those two players, so that when it wants to go on the defense, even if there are other guys that aren't quite 100% comfortable, that guy has a full command of it, and he's kind of running around making the calls.
What were those mental gymnastics like for you last year where Mitchell Melton, a lot of people thought might be that guy, and then, you know, he tried to get it out of check. But my point is, with a new team, new players playing against other new teams, and, you know, people are creatures of habit, even coaches. I mean, you're trying to meld your system right to fit it. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's you know, it's just a lot of work, a lot of study, you know, and you're right. Sometimes you can't, when you're in the middle of the forest, you don't see the forest through the trees, you know. So you go back to things, you know, because by the time I left Oklahoma State, that package was, because I went back and looked at it, you know, and after the season, you go back and look, okay, what was good, and that's practically all we did. That's practically all we did.
Yeah.
But they were different players, different guys, you know, and as we used some of it here, it just wasn't as popping, you know. It wasn't popping. Right. I'm saying it wasn't ineffective, but it wasn't popping. It wasn't jumping off like when you watched the things at Oklahoma State. You went, wow, that was great. So, you know, gradually just pulled back on it because it doesn't matter what I know. It matters what works and what the players know.
Yeah.
So you just pull back.
When you think statistically, at least, at Oklahoma State, your defense has got better every year. Why is that? Is that you implementing more? Is it the players absorbing more? I'm sure it's some combination of the two, but how would you explain, and did you really feel that beyond the stats? Every year the defense is getting better and better and better.
Yeah, I felt it. You know, I think it is less about me implementing more, although it's always there, right? And it's just a little bit of an injection here or there as they can handle it to get it up. But it's more about how the players understand, you know, so that you want everyone on the defense to know what everyone else does. You want everyone to know where the ball is going to end up. When I make a call based on the play the offense runs, the ball is going to go here. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. It looks more complicated, but if you know, because every defense has I don't want a hole or an escape hatch or some part of it in it. So that's how they get better. And I believe, I think with like a guy like Tommy, take Tommy for example, you saw that accelerated, right? Because he was a guy who really picked it up. I use the word Gretzky all the time. Right? You probably heard me say it, but I keep saying it because it's, hey, Wayne Gretzky, why are you such a great goal scorer? It's because I didn't go where the puck was. I went where it was going to be. So Tommy figured it out a little more quickly, maybe with some other guys. That if I made this call and they ran this play, the ball was going to end up over here. So that's how you play fast. So when you get 11 guys who can do that, that's how you get better.
I know you could never blame players. I mean, I know coaches don't do that, but the last 2 games, the big plays are really what stung, and almost every one of them you could see either just a physical guy slips or something, or a bad decision or something, and Katie barred the door, right? I mean, has that haunted you the last several months, or is it, how do you fix that? I mean, obviously it's coaching, you coach a guy to be in position and also to make the play. I mean, explain what that thought is.
Yeah, I mean, it's yes, it's haunted me, but just haunting me, that doesn't do anybody any good, except it just keeps you. So if it's a problem, you got to fix it. You got to take responsibility, take accountability. Then you have to say, okay, why did this happen? Like you said, it was a matchup or somebody just not doing something right. Well, that all comes back to me, and I have to. So yeah, you kind of go back to the start. You look at everything. You look at your teaching progression, and then you have to learn. Then you say, okay, we're in matchup games. Those were 2 matchup games. We did not. I did not get the job done. So then you have to say, okay, how do I do a better job of, from the start, planning out the defensive progression for those matchup games. You know what I mean? So you got to go. You got to go back to the beginning. Anytime you try to do something that's a stopgap or something that's just for that week, to me, you're doomed for failure. It's got to become part of your progression. It's got to be in your mind from the start. Is okay. How do the things that didn't go well last year? How do I, from day one, start to make sure that doesn't happen?
And what I'm linked to, Georgia had this vaunted defense last year. They had a tough night too. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? It's a 1-point game, and I think you saw.
Yeah, and we went back to we had a great. What was it, third quarter, right?
Yeah.
We shut them out. Yeah. Because I went back to some things that I know works.
Yeah.
And then.
But if
I didn't get out of those things quick, and you know what I mean. Then it stayed in that too long. So it's a chess match, but.
Well, if you know if a guy's going to fall down, you don't call that deep. You know what I mean.
That was, I need to do a better job.
But I wanted to follow up on it. Nick Saban said, recently that the day of just shutdown defense. You may have seen that where this day of shutdown defenses are thinking you're going to have defense. This is a defensive guy, or long gone. I mean, what is just your reaction to that? But I mean, there is some truth in that, right?
He knows what he's talking about. I mean, he's obviously the best who's ever done it. So, yeah, there's a lot of truth to it. But, I believe we have to keep coaching our guys. That's you cannot. What are you gonna say? It's okay if we give this or that up. It's not. So you just keep pushing for perfection, even if you know it's not possible. You keep driving it that way.
You said Tommy was a little bit accelerated last year in understanding. I think we all saw Tommy Eichenberg was a better football player in 2022 than he was in 2021. If he's the accelerated version, but now it's year 2, could the defense this season look more like 11 Tommy Eichenbergs? And
Absolutely.
I think you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely. That's the goal. That's why I do it. I think you saw that at the end at Oklahoma State. I mean, there wasn't a single 4-star or 5-star guy on that defense, and we were arguably the best in the country if you put all the categories together, maybe within the top 3. But everybody understood, and everybody was able to play fast. And that's what you want to do.
And is the nutshell understanding of know where the ball is going to wind up?
Yes.
Based on their call, my call. We've drilled this 100 times.
Yeah.
I've taught it to you.
Yeah.
You understand everybody's position.
Yes.
You can run to where the ball is going to be because you know where it's
You
going to
know
be.
where it's going to end up, or where they're going to attempt to attack based on our structure.
How far down the line did you get to that point last year with 11 guys on a snap, being able to anticipate, I know where the ball is going to be? Were you at 50% of what you think you need to be, 80%? I know that's a hard question to ask, but I'm trying to figure out how much better it could be this year based on where you were last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I had the first number of that job is 70, 75%.
Okay.
And you try to think of times where we were good, because there were times we were really good, right? So you try to think, okay, did everybody really have it? I know there's a lot, we can get a lot better. There's still a chunk to get better.
When you're sitting here right now and you see what you did last year, and it was a very good defense, but you're thinking to yourself, I know what it wasn't and I know what it can be. I've been through it at Oklahoma State. Like, how do you feel right now? What are the expectations or the hope or what the ceiling could be? Just your eagerness to get back on the field with this defense. Where are you right now as a second-year defensive coordinator?
There's the opportunity to be the best in my mind. There's the opportunity to be the best, to make across-the-board improvements from what was already an improved defense, but the expectation to be a top 5 defense that everyone can count on all the time. And that's there. I mean, I've seen enough. Been around these guys, Coach Day, Coach Mick, the way they run the program. I saw our secondary in the spring make excellent improvements. Now, everything matters. Nothing counts until you get to the game, right? Everything matters, nothing counts. But when you see guys just get your hands on more balls, just challenge routes, I do, and went through this at Oklahoma State. I do believe it's real. When you play and practice against a high-powered offense with great receivers and quarterback and, first-round picks, you get beat in practice. But that can't be okay. It doesn't matter who you're going against. It can't be okay. Yeah. And that's how our own iron on the offense has to sharpen our defensive iron. We needed to make that transition because this is how we're going to be the best, is we have to be the best against our offense every day. We're going to go against our offense, how many times? And then opponent 15 times, you know what I mean? So we need to be great against our offense, and that's been my message in preaching that is, it's not okay. Even though our offense is great, it can never be okay for us to get beat.
And you say that because at times last year you felt it maybe seeping in?
Sure. I think, that anything you do repeatedly becomes a habit. And, we cannot be a defense, no matter how good our offense is, that if we give up something in practice, we say, well, hey, that was Marv. That was Marv. You can't beat that. You can't do it.
It's
you can't
Marv,
do
it's CJ, it's Paris, it's DeJuan, it's
you just can't. You can't
say that.
Yeah, but you can't. That's becomes a habit, and we just need to do a better job of that. And I saw progression in the spring.
Yeah.
Cam Martinez, what did you see rise out of him in the spring? What did you see?
Cam, I've thought all along since I've been here that he has all the skills of like a kid, Michael Carter, who we had at Duke, who's maybe undersized, who's now with the Jets, but undersized, but quick feet, and with Cam, it's all just about confidence and competing. And I saw him make strides.
Jim, were you able to see enough out of Jahad Carter in the spring to know how he can help you and sort of how you hope to use him?
Yes. I think Jahad is a versatile guy who increased the competition at all those safety spots. One thing I noticed about him, which I guess no one really gets to see except a coach, but there are certain guys when they mess up a play in practice, and you pull them over and you say, hey, when they do this, you have to do that. Then they go out there the next series and they do it. He did that. That's impressive. That gives you goosebumps. Okay, this kid, he takes the coaching right there and changes the production on the field. And that's not a lot of guys can do that. So that's something I saw in him that was great.
You seem to have, at the safety position in particular, a lot of different body types, skill sets, ways you could mix and match depending on what teams throw you.
Yes.
But I'm wondering if you would prefer that or an existence where you could play the same three guys all the time and do everything. And
more is better. Being able to, as you said, intermingle the players based on the matchups, is a good thing.
Where's Jahad at health-wise after the
He's fine. Yeah, he's fine. He's back.
I was talking to Larry earlier about Mitchell. Couldn't say enough good things about him. You've been talking about him since the first time we talked to him last year. Talked to you last year. What does he do that makes his coaches so happy?
We didn't get to see that much of him, but he's just I saw a guy who has that short space quickness. He has the ability to get off blocks. He can handle a lot from a scheme standpoint. You can put a lot on him, and he plays with that kind of demeanor where you just always felt good when he was out there on the field. He wasn't very up and down. He was pretty straight.
I've never been a defense coordinator. If I was, what would buoy me going into this is the returning guys up front, which a fastball is a fastball, right? I mean, if you're a batter, you got to. Is that the heart of it all? Always, almost always defensively. If you got guys up front that can make a difference, can change the tenor of a play even before it gets started.
Yeah.
And do you have that kind of sense about the guys that are back? A rising guy like Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, with your just what is that sense of you?
Yeah, I do. I saw those young guys really step up this spring, and the guys we have coming back are they can be trusted, and you've seen them make plays.
Yeah.
You look back at the plays, from game one that Mike made. He had that early run in the season where he was, as you said, just kind of controlling the game, make plays. And then you look at what JT did against Penn State, just kind of took the game in his hands. We have the opportunity, as you said, to be very disruptive and productive there.
But consistency is the.
Yeah, you got to do it all the time, and for the course of the long season.
Are you still looking at Mitchell and CJ as the guys who can most likely play that jack position this year?
Yes.
Seeing what CJ did in the spring game, does that give you more incentive to want to find a role for him this year?
Absolutely. I think CJ has made all the progress necessary to put him in that position to get plays in the real game.
You mentioned it's kind of a matchup play with the safeties and how you use them. Is that really highlighted by the nickel position? Could that nickel position look different for one opponent than it does for the next one?
Absolutely. It's a great point. Right. What are the matchup there in the slot? How much, tight end or close formation are you getting to the field? What is that? Does the nickel need to be more like a corner or more like a strong safety? And that can be week to week, play to play.
I'm not trying to trip you up with your own words, but I think when you got here, you said back seven, you maybe would prefer getting guys set in there and letting them play. You thought they learned over the course of the game.
Yeah.
And you maybe weren't thinking rotate guys there. Now you've mentioned CJ, you've mentioned different bodies at safety.
Yeah.
Are you maybe more open to some moving
Yeah, I
parts in
think
the
it's
back
a good.
seven?
I think that's a good observation. Yeah, I think you get to the Ohio State, you realize there are a lot of guys with a lot of skills that you have to, that you should find roles for.
And that, to me, that makes sense,
Yeah,
right? That there's just maybe a depth of talent
Yeah,
here that
yeah.
you, nothing against any other place you've been, hadn't quite encountered before.
Absolutely.
And you feel like that maybe has affected your
Yep.
thinking.
Yep, for sure.
Okay.
When did I notice that?
That was maybe a luxury that you hadn't necessarily had, so it's also just a lot of respect.
I don't know that I really noticed it or thought about it until this spring. Because that first year, really your hair is on fire. I don't have any hair left. But I mean, because you are attempting to input, and produce at the same time. So I think after year one, you have the luxury to kind of calm down in the spring. Look at the good things.
Is that a product of the talent that's here, or that's just guys in the way that you didn't necessarily know?
That's a great point. Both, right? It's knowing the talent, knowing your players, knowing what they can do, what they do well, finding ways to do it. And I think with the infusion of Jihad and Davison, that's been a big deal for us too in the back end.
Talking about CJ and what he could do this year, when you look back, you think maybe I should have played about defense some last year?
CJ?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. I think CJ's right where he should be. Right where he should be.
Like he's not been set back or anything.
No. CJ has soaked it all in, learned from it. I know everyone wants to see the highly recruited guys play right away, but as coaches, you prefer to let a guy kind of grow a little bit.
You do know that? That's how everybody is. Us fans,
I wasn't saying
you do
you're
know
aware.
that, right?
I'm not aware. I mean, I try not to read, and I love all you men and women. I try not to read, because, when it's good, I want to pat myself on the back, and when it's bad, I want to go hide in the garage. But I mean, I do have people tell me things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have buddies say, "Hey, don't worry about what they're saying about you online," and I'll be like, "I don't read it, but thanks for telling me now. Now I don't feel great." Yeah,
That's smart.
We've talked extensively about the differences year one to year two, implementing, teaching, the defense, etc. For you personally, what's it been like now to have a year living in Columbus, just being around this area?
It's always better to be settled, to have, kind of your feet on the ground, and just be more comfortable with the staff. I mean, that's just always better, But also the way we live as coaches, you're always just going 100 miles an hour too. So I mean, I don't know. It's nice to think that matters, but I don't know if it really does.
Your feet are never really.
Yeah,
on the
no,
ground.
you're never really in one place. Yeah. Good. Good to see all the usual suspects.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Coach.
This is what I always reference when we talk about.
Okay, folks, we're not going to be able to stay up here, so we're going to, if you want to do podcast or something you got outside, or you can do the trophy lobby
This is
downstairs.
Ohio State's 2014 national championship.